What is up, everybody? Welcome to the Free Lady Podcast. I am your host, Brittney McWethy. I have a very special guest on today. I have Monique Davis on, and I'm super excited to share her story and what she does currently now. It's astonishing, and I'm so excited for you guys to hear what she has done with her life and the things and the tools that you guys can apply to your life. This is what it's all about, you guys. This is a community of sharing our stories, sharing other people's stories to help you feel like you can accomplish something in your life that you need to change. You're not alone. You're not alone. We are here to only help you and to hopefully shed a light on other things that you might not even know about. So welcome, Monique. Thank you so much for being here. I really appreciate you. So Monique,
Thanks
who
for
are
having
you?
me.
Yeah, I'm stoked, man. I was just telling her that I see her all over the place. She's been a part of the Lion's Den. Yes, she's another Lion's Den member. You guys see the repetition. I'm just telling you. Um, so she's been a Den member since 2018, correct? And
Yep.
we both have changed both of our lives. So, this is why we're here. This is why we're here to help you guys. So Monique, tell us who you are and what do you do?
Oh, the what do I do?
I know there's a
So yeah, I know, like, oh, I do this and I do this. So I've been a nurse for the last 10 years. I stayed home with my kids prior to that, and I went into nursing school when they got into school. So I've been an ER nurse with the last few years, really specializing in the psych area of the ER.
Mm.
And then I started doing real estate investment about 4 or 5 years ago, just buying Airbnbs and then land flipping, eventually into spec builds. And then now I'm like building this crazy venue slash glamping tent thing. I don't know. Really, that's so that I can have retreats for my passion, which is working with families, especially of teenagers in crisis. So
Oh,
I'm building the venue so I can do retreats for families. So it all kind of works itself together.
right. That's what I love. And that is actually a goal of mine, to have something that I build or Daniel and I build a retreat center so we can have things that, are nonprofit so people can afford to come and learn and
Yep.
not feel like, oh, I can't do that because I can't afford it. Like, I can't stand that with like when it comes to mental health or anything that we can bring love and light into other people. So I am so like, I love it. Like I look up to you and what you're doing. And I know it's hard. I know you have struggled with
Yeah.
everything that's going on your little campground, but it looks so cool. And you guys, it's going to be near like Kalispell, like Whitefish, right? Somewhere in there in Montana. So if you guys are ever in Montana, there you go. Go and
Yeah, I
check.
got this for you.
Yeah, go and check her out.
Yeah.
So I never actually script these podcasts, you guys, but we have something that I want to talk about in the beginning before we really get into everything else that she does. If you guys have not seen The Sound of Freedom, please, please, please go watch it. It will change your life. I have paid it forward. I have bought 5 tickets for someone else to use. If you cannot afford it, all you have to do is go online to the Angel Foundation and get your free tickets to go see the Freedom Den. You can also donate to this charity. This is all for child trafficking. And if you don't know who Tim Ballard is, please look him up. He is part of the Underground Railroad, where I think he just stepped down, but he started that. And now he has his company with Ariel. So he goes on missions to fight childhood trafficking. If you don't know what child, I don't know why I keep saying child trafficking is, it's real. And Tim has risked his life so many times to save children from these child traffickers. It is almost the number one thing that is happening to America more than drugs. You got that right. You got that right. And after I just recently saw this movie with Daniel, and Monique has seen this movie, and I walked away so damn pissed because I know there's a lot of people out there that think this movie is stupid. And you know why you think it's stupid? It's because you don't want to believe it's real. And maybe your friends around you don't want to think that it's real, but this is real and we have to take action on it, because if we don't, it's going to continue to get worse. So please go see this movie. Please go see this movie. It's a real movie about Tim Ballard and his experience of what he had to do and what he had to go through to save children's lives. So with that said, Monique has a story to tell about how this almost happened to her daughter, but what she did in the past years to help her teach her daughter how to look for signs if someone is trying to get to you as a minor, or if you see this in your family, and what signs to look for. So go ahead and share that story, Monique.
Yeah, so I think it was about a year and a half ago, my daughter had an experience with a gentleman that it really seemed like it was no big deal, right? Like she was getting gas in her car. She had walked into the gas station. She was wearing a popular surf skate type of sweatshirt. The guy in the gas station had said, "Oh, you active? Yeah, I used to be a skateboarder, blah 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 blah." He was in his early 50s ish, is what she thought. Um, and she was like, "Oh yeah, cool," and she keeps walking. Now, keep in mind, my daughter's very, very personable and she loves people, all of them, and she's always very sweet and kind. So she's out there pumping her gas. She goes to leave, and as she's going to leave, he stops her and tells her roll down her window. Well, she knows not to roll her window down all the way, but she was still trying to be kind. And at this point, she really wasn't suspect of anything. So she had rolled her window down just a crack enough that he could talk to her. And he basically just said, that he said he had a job for her. Like it was really good pay. He owned a couple storage companies. It would just be data processing. Gave her his number, and as he was talking to her, he was looking in her car. And she had her work uniform on her seat. And he goes, "Oh, so you work at blah blah blah." And she goes, "Oh no, it was my girlfriend's. She just left it here. I need to take it to her." Because automatically she's thinking, "Oh, now he's paying attention." She's trying to throw him off, right? So she's like, "No, it's not mine. My girlfriend left it in here, whatever."
Right.
And now she's starting to like pay attention and get a little bit nervous about why is he picking up things like this, right? So she does take his number and she's like, "Oh, well, I gotta go," and she leaves. Well, fast forward about a week, he shows up at her work because her work uniform was on her.
Wow.
Um, and so when he walked in, he goes, "Oh, you do work here?" And she's like, "Oh yeah," got really nervous, whatever, started to walk away. He's like, "Well, I still have that job for you." And she's like, "I can't talk to you like I'm working." So she was trying to push him off. Well, he showed up multiple times after that when she was not at work, and he was then asking for her by name. Um,
And how,
and he wouldn't order anything when she wasn't there. I guess the first time he came in, he asked the cashier what her name was when she told him that she couldn't talk to him at work. He asked the cashier what her name was. Cashier had told him. So now he knows her name. And, our teenage kids, they have their school stuff in the car, right? They have their parking
yeah,
passes. They like
yeah.
to put bumper stickers that are identifying all this stuff. Well, I've been teaching my girls since they were very young, signs and things to be looking for, situational awareness mostly, because you may not catch it. But she knew enough that when I called an organization that was not OUR, but there's several
Yeah.
of these types of
Yeah.
organizations that do this stuff.
Yes.
And the organization that I called, they flew out on their own dime from Philadelphia to California.
Wow.
And based on the information that she was able to give him, they were able to find him within like 24 hours. Because I called the police. The problem is that until he does anything, there's nothing that the police can do.
Right.
So it really doesn't, there's nothing that you can do as a parent until it's like too late almost. You know what I mean? Like you can start to document how many times did he come to her work. Like I had her changing her route every time she went to work, every time she went to school, every time she came home. I had her changing all her car
Wow.
routes because I don't want her in the same. they pay attention to those things. They pick up on every little thing that you have in your car that identifies any kind of your work hours they're watching for, your school hours they're watching for. Obviously, she had her school stuff in there, so he knew what times the schools are happening, right? So it's very easy to identify these girls and pick them off.
Right.
So it Sound of Freedom is that movie is very, very eye-opening, but it is definitely not the only way that trafficking happens. It's
Right.
definitely not the only
Right.
age group. And I think a lot of the problem with Sound of Freedom that I have heard in feedback is it's in another country that doesn't happen here. Oh, it sure does happen here. It sure does.
America actually is number one, and
Yep.
it happens to all ages. And,
Yep.
OUR is
And
another,
both sexes and all
yeah, is another foundation. That's what what she was talking about, you guys. So like, write these down. I'm going to have it in the link below: Underground Railroad, OUR, and angel.com. This is where you donate. Angel.com is where you find, I think I said Ariel in the beginning. I'm so sorry. I get very passionate, like, of things that I talk about, because I was so flippin' angry. I was so angry when I came out of that movie, because of the people that don't think this is real. And that's why we're here talking about it right now. So again, um, also write down these things of situational awareness that Monique is talking about, so you can teach your kids to know these signs.
Yeah, I've done trainings with my teen girl clients that where we run scenarios like, and every single time that I've run scenarios with these girls, they would have ended up being victims because they don't have any idea, right? Like our kids, especially now, they're on their phones. So they don't pay attention to what's around them. Like if you got into a car with a friend of yours that you didn't know long term or whatever else, and you're not paying attention because you're looking at your phone, and then all of a sudden you end up at a warehouse of buildings. You don't know where you are. You can't even you have no clue. You know what I mean? So when I do these trainings, it's always good to run scenarios with them because it's what settles in. It's what makes them really think about things and hit home for them so that they get it. Because otherwise it's just your mom telling you blah 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 again, right? So but in situational stuff, if you actually make these scenarios for them where you're asking the questions and they're responding with what they would do, what their response is, all that kind of stuff, it really hits home for them. I've had a lot of feedback with my girls that made the most
Yeah.
sense for them, being able to actually picture themselves in these scenarios and what they would do.
Right. And it's just so important. It's so important. And like she was talking about, like, the police can't do anything, but these organizations can. And they want to get involved. This is how, as a community, if we see this, we call those organizations, and they do this all based off of their own money and donations. And
Mhm.
there's so many ways that we can help. We don't have to be a part of, like, going in, to North America. Our coach Sean Whalen just came back from North America. Bless his freaking heart. And they caught so many guys and women, and they put them behind bars for child trafficking, and it was unbelievable. It was unreal that what he did. And you can also be a part of that. But if you're going to want to do something like that, you got to get your house in order. You got to know how to fight somebody. You need to know how to fight somebody with a weapon. You need to be comfortable with guns. You need to be comfortable with your own body, of putting yourself through any type of defense, situational awareness, just like Monique was talking about. Get your kids in karate, like anything that they know how to have self-awareness and, protect themselves and see these things. And it's up to us, if we have children, to teach our children these things, because it's so real. And it reminded me, I was just talking to my friend about this the other day. I remember, I think, actually, no, I talked about this to Daniel too, because after the movie, I was like, oh my God, I have experienced something like this before. Like, I remember when I was really young, I don't remember where I was or whatever. I just remember this guy coming up to me and be like, wow, you're so beautiful. You should be a model. And like gave me a little flyer. And I took it home to my parents. They're like, oh, no, 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 no. I don't think they even knew what it was, but who freaking knows? Who
Mhm.
knows? You know what I
Yep.
mean? It's just, and it's so freaking disgusting that, you know, people are making money, like, selling children, you can sell drugs. Okay. I can give you a bag of cocaine easily. You can sell a child over and over and over and over again. They're
Mhm.
slaves. It's modern day slavery. And it can happen at any age in any country and right underneath your nose. So be aware. This is about awareness. This is why we're talking about this. We want you to be aware, and please, like, again, go see the movie. It's just a part. It is one tiny part of what's really going on. So, I want to talk to you about how you started your coaching group for families and children. Like, what brought that on in your life that you became so passionate into doing that for others?
I think multiple things, and I've looked at this to try to kind of see what is the tree branches, right? But I started taking kids into my house years ago. It's been 18, 20 years. I've had multiple children live with me over the years, and um, one of the kids that came to live with me, he was my son. Like, I don't know, I can't say it any other way. He lived with me from second grade to, high school. And after living with me for all those years, I moved away and his dad would not let me take him.
Mm,
And, you know, you never really know. You think like I should have fought more. I should have, you know, I had him for all these years. I should have filed with abandonment. I should have done all these things, right?
yeah,
But I didn't do any of those things because at that point, all those years his dad shared him with me is how I felt like. His dad allowed me to take care of him because he knew he couldn't. And mom was gone. Mom was gone his whole life. So I just felt like that wasn't the right thing to do. Well, fast forward a year and a half, he got heavily into drugs, and he ended up killing himself at 16 years old. So, at that time, you have all of these teenagers that are dealing with suicide. I'm dealing with the loss of my son that I don't know how I'm dealing with, let alone how am I going to keep these kids together? How am I going to keep them safe? How am I going to keep them from any of them repeating that process or anything else? And so I kind of just gathered them all and I just kept them for like 3 months. I didn't let anybody they like had to be together. And for my sons and my daughters, that was a very traumatic time. He was their brother, he was my son. It was a very traumatic time. And then 8 months later, another one of our kiddos that lived with us got killed in a car accident. And so it was just all this trauma with these kids, right? And you're looking at things and those are the hallmarks for everything that could go wrong, right? For all the reasons why you're going to go be a drug addict, a drunk or whatever, because it's just, I don't want to deal with this. I don't want to feel this. I don't want anything
right,
for kids. And so, I mean, I had always had them, so I can't say that that's what brought me to this place, but I think that the more that I spent time with these kids, and for whatever reason, they trusted me. They just always came to me. They always talked to me. They were always open. And I was trying to figure out why. What
mm,
is it different about me than mom or whatever else? Because I still had the rules. I still had the consequences. I still had all of the things in place as a parent. So it
right,
wasn't like I was their friend because I wasn't their friend.
right,
But I brought consistency.
yeah,
I brought expectation of this is what I expect it to look like, and I was always consistent with that, and I think a lot of them just didn't have that, and so they yearned for that with me. And once I figured out kind of like what is it that I do that works, and then how do I teach that to parents, because the reality is I've been the hero of the story for a long time for a lot of kids, and these kids are adults and having babies and they come back to me all the time.
mm,
I don't wanna be that. I want the parents to be that. I want you to have your kid in your home where they think that you're the greatest thing in the world, not me, if that
right,
makes sense. So I tried really hard to figure out how do I spent a lot of time teaching kids. I taught self-esteem and all these different things, right? And you could heal a kid. You could really get them on the right track and get their grades going and all that stuff. But then you send them back to the same environment and they will eventually go back to the same process that they were doing prior to.
right,
So it's been years of trying to figure out what does this look like and how do I really help the kids the most. And the way that that has shown up for me is to have it be a family adventure,
right,
that it really entails the family as a whole and not just the kid and not just the parents. Because to me, you need both sides and you need them both to cohesively work together. They need to be able to understand each other and communicate and connect and all of those things. So
Right.
it's been years of trying to figure it out. So I don't know that I have like a exact path, but the passion has always been, how do I help the most amount of kids? How do I help to heal them? And that kind of came into, well, it really does take the family to do that.
It does.
So
It's so beautiful. I mean, I could say that I had like a terrible, like childhood, but I didn't have a terrible childhood. I just was, I just felt very unloved from my mom, you know what I mean? And it's people like you that I naturally got to be around growing up, especially in high school. Like my best friends and their parents, they all took me in, like gave me love, like we sat around the dinner table and ate. Like, not that my family didn't do that, but there was just more love and kindness where you can be yourself. You didn't have to be like this perfect like Christian girl at the table, you know what I mean? Not that that's a bad thing either, but if you are going to sit at the table with your family, that needs to be love and
mhm.
kindness and let your children be who they are. And I never got to feel that way, and there's so many kids that like just kind of link up. I had a friend that I didn't know very well when I was going to a different high school. My mom made me go to a different high school because she didn't want me to be around my friends anymore, or like the guy I was dating. I had great grades. I was a great athlete. Like, I didn't party, I was a good kid, very artistic and everything like that. But my mom really tried to control who I was and never let me be me. And when I came home one day and all my stuff was in the front yard, I didn't know. I didn't have anywhere to go. And this girl, she was like, "You can come stay with me." I did not know her, but her mom, she was like, she has taken in kids before. And it's people like you that are literally saving children's lives, even if they're there for a week, even if they're there, for, a month or two or whatever. Like, you are making an impression, and like you're such an angel, Monique, for being. I get so emotional thinking of that, because those are the people that like keep you together, keep you alive.
I think that's, I feel like I had those people in my life too, right? And I feel like oftentimes when we're in those positions, and especially for parenting, because I'm a parent now and I've gone through this so many times, right? I didn't do all the things right because I only did what I knew how to do in the moment. And so I feel like a lot of these kids, they're victims of what their parents don't know, right? So like your
Exactly.
parents, even though they're parents, they don't know everything, right? They don't have it all figured out. And so like for me, when I spend time with my teenagers and with my parents, I always do it separately at first
Right.
because the story's somewhere in the middle, right? Like parents typically don't know they're doing anything wrong. It's the teenagers doing this and they're being bad, you know what I mean? Like it's all these things, right? But
Yeah.
there's a
Love
story in
it.
the middle of
Yeah.
this where the teenager just doesn't understand that the parents don't know, and the
Right.
parents don't know what they don't know. So it's like that
Right.
teaching and bridging between them so that they are getting their needs met and the parents know how to meet those needs because they're not doing it. Every parent, I mean, for the most part, unless it's like a psychotic situation, they all love their children and they want to do the best things that they can possibly do, but they just don't have the tools to do it. And so
Right.
for me, I don't want them to have to go to people like me. I want them to be able to have that in their home and that their parents have the tools that they need to be able to be that for them.
Right.
That's
Right.
really important.
It is really important. And, I would have never recognized that if I didn't like learn to love myself. It's like I get some kick from my family, like, "Oh man, like you're calling out mom with all these things." But it's like, at the same time, that's still my story. But I still know that my mom did the best that she could. She did the best that she
Mhm.
could with the tools that she had. And, there was 5 of us, and I was the first to be born, and I was just kinda stuck on my own, really,
Yeah.
And, my dad, worked all the time, and he went back to school. He got, like, 3 different degrees, like, bless his heart. feeding 7 people, you know what I mean? That's a lot in California.
Yeah.
So, I mean, he was a gem. Like he like worked so hard, but he always came home to his kids and he did everything to be present with his kids. And I will always remember and cherish those memories. You know what I mean? Um, but it's we're never going to be perfect parents. I'm not even a parent. I know these things, we're just never going to be perfect, but over time we can learn, like, if we work on ourselves as much as possible, our kids get to see that. It's not just things that we're teaching our kids, it's what they see. It's
It's absolutely what they see. They don't even hear you.
uh,
They don't listen.
it's what you're putting
They
in.
need to.
Yeah, it's what you're putting in your mouth. It's what you're feeding your body. It's what you're
Yeah.
giving to your mind with either, being in nature, reading books, like having good communication. You know what I mean? It's the relationships that you have around you. It's how you do your business. It's everything in the 4 aspects of life, like core 4 that Sean Whalen teaches. Your kids are watching you. That's where they learn the most because you never know when a kid is watching you. So, as long as I feel like, my mom did not deal with her past and still hasn't to this day. And that's why she has so much trauma and is always been the victim, which I don't, like, that's on her and it's okay. But at the same time, if you have trauma and you're trying to hide who you are, guess what's going to happen to that child? You are going to try to hide who they are. And that's literally what happened to me in my childhood. It wasn't bad. It wasn't great. It was good. It was all the things. But for me, I had to take a very, very long path to learn how to love myself. So I can be here today doing this podcast. Sharing these stories like what you have been doing as a parent. And it's so beautiful. And I mean, and like, if you guys sitting out here listen to Monique's story, I'm sure, we can help her out too. You know what I mean? Like, let's be a community and like, strive for the best for our children. Like we can all come together. If you guys are in Montana, go help her like set up with her campground. Like you just never know who you're, you know what I mean? It's just like we're here to guide and love each other as best as possible because love heals all. Love heals all. And like you're also a nurse. I feel like you just have a heart of gold and you've always been somebody that likes to give love back. Now, did you grow up that way? Were your parents like that to you? And like, it was so wonderful that you wanted to continue that with what you're doing now? No.
No, but I'll tell you this.
Hmm.
Um, I think that my mom did the very best she could with what she knew. Um, and I think that she strived to be better for me than what was for her. So I'll tell you that she told me, I think that she told me the first time in my life this story that when she had me, she was 19 when she had me, and they give her this little baby, and she said, I remember holding you up in front of my face and having to force myself to tell you that I loved you because I didn't know how to say those words, but I wanted you to have them so bad. And so she learned things that were really important for
Mhm.
her to give to me.
Mhm.
But just like with me, are there things that she messed up? Yes, of course, because there was a lot of unhealed stuff. And so it's kind of been an interesting transition from my life because she's 65 now and she's, retired, and she's found this peace in herself and in life, and she's finally forgiven herself of all of the things. And so our relationship is this different space altogether. Because I don't hold, when the one thing that she told me was, don't ever be like me, be better than me. Like,
Right.
take the good from me and make it better. Don't be a mini me, always find the better than me. And it, in some sense, that permission to say, you know what, I'm gonna do better in this. She was never at any school function. I was never in any kind of sports because there just wasn't time. There wasn't, so she wasn't present much of my life, which I struggled with. when I really started to do all my self-reflection and my work on how do I love myself and all those things, where that came from was that sense of abandonment, which,
Yes.
my dad left when I was young, and I always thought I have daddy issues, right? Like my dad abandoned me, whatever. But the reality is that he was never around for me to expect for him to be around. The abandonment came from being in the same home with her and having her not be present with me when I expected her to be.
Yeah.
So when I started to heal those places, I knew it was safe to tell her that stuff because she had told me my whole life, my shoulders are big, give it to me. Don't carry it. If it's something I did, if it's something that I hurt you with, give it to me because my shoulders can carry it. I don't want yours to. And so I had this room to tell her, you know what, mom, this is what I came to. Like through all these years of therapy and all of this stuff, like at the end of the day, it was you. Like you just
Yeah.
weren't present. And she
Yeah.
was like, right, I really wasn't. And I was doing the best I could, but I definitely wasn't. And I'm sorry for that. And that was it. Like it was like, you know? So when I, even with like my parents nowadays, I always tell them, listen, it's okay to say you screwed up. It's okay to say, you know what? If you got something you got to tell me, you can tell me as long as you do it respectfully. Because we don't want our children to carry that stuff, right? Like, give it to me. I got the shoulders for it. I can carry it, right? And the more that we do that and we are vulnerable with them and say, you know what? I don't have this all figured out. I definitely don't. And if I've screwed up something, believe me, you can bring it to me and
Absolutely.
I will be okay with that. It gives them the freedom not only to like not carry that crap, but also to know that they can speak to you in
Yeah.
vulnerability, which is a really big tool.
Absolutely. I absolutely agree. And, I mean, what you just said, like, struck me in my heart too. It's just like, like I was always trying to find love and be loved and do everything for everybody, which doesn't do anything for everybody or yourself, right? And, with my mom, like, being the first, and then my brother is 4 years younger than me, and it was just kid after kid. So there was five of us, and my mom was working until like the third kid. She was a nurse too, and a hairdresser at one point. And so, because I'm a hairdresser, if you didn't know that, and
Yeah. Yep.
there was a time where like she just wasn't present because there was all these other things like going on. And that's not completely like her fault. Sometimes you don't even know these things. And, like if my mom were to say that, like, just let me know so I can recognize these things, we would have a relationship, I would think. We would have a relationship, and it makes when you can't talk to your parents, when you have to hide everything. There was a time when I did want to talk to my mom about like losing my virginity to the love of my life, and it was awful. It was
Yeah.
so bad. It was so bad. I mean, it was so bad. Like, I mean, she was running up and down the stairs screaming bloody murder. The devil came out. Like, she took the whole family out of the house for the entire day and let me be at home, switch schools, like did all this crazy stuff, when I was like,
And
man,
how traumatizing was that for you?
it was,
How traumatizing.
and I was still going to youth group at that time in church. And I came up to my youth group one day and nobody talked to me, not even the damn pastor. You know what I mean? You're an adult man. But
Right.
my mom prayed about me at Sunday's church in the little, prayer pamphlet that you get. And instead of being anonymous, she put my name. And
Mm,
which, maybe she didn't understand it at the time, how that was going to affect me or her or anything like that. I think she was just trying to be vulnerable,
yeah.
um, because it's church, right? But no one
Yeah.
talked to me except one girl. She was like, hey, this was in, the thing on Sunday's prayer, and everybody knows. And I went back a second time, and, I could not believe, I will never forget, like, how no one talked to me. But I don't remember how I went home and how I felt. Like, it's really weird. But like, I worked at a flower shop a couple of years later, and the pastor came in to buy flowers, and I was like, hey, Jason, how are you? And he turned around and walked out. you know,
Wow.
and so that played a huge role on my mom's and I relationship because it went to all these levels and I
Yeah.
couldn't, be open with her. I couldn't talk to her. And, it was really hard to talk to my dad because my dad was my dad. And I
Yeah.
mean, he was really, really quiet and he just didn't know what to do. He didn't know what to say. And I do respect him for that because at least he's like, I don't know, Brittany. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Um, and so
I think that that's the space where you need to where especially as a parent, but just in general as a person, like those are the spaces where you need to be able to, like for my kids, I've always taught them, it's okay for you to tell me that I hurt you. You know what I mean? Um, because I want them to know it's okay to have boundaries for themselves. And I want them to know that their space matters. You know, my daughter came to me at one point and told me, "Yeah, I'm not going to engage with you right now. Like, I'm just not interested in any kind of engagement with you." And she was cordial and respectful. She wasn't any kind, but I hurt her feelings. I did something that hurt her, and she just immediately was like, "Mm-mm, I'll let you know when I'm ready, but I am not going to engage at this point."
right.
And she was, 17 years old.
Wow.
But it wasn't done disrespectfully, so how do I say to her, "Ah, that's not okay." No, girl, like, she's her own human, right? She gets to have her own say so on her space and her time and what's okay for her and what's not okay for her.
Right.
But that starts with me. It starts at home because if she can't do those things with me, she will never have the bravery or courage to do it outside of me, right? So it was something that was really important for me to teach them. And it's something that as adults, we lack that. Well, for me, I do. Boundaries were never a good thing for me. Like I did not know how to place them, hold them, nothing. I was the one that was like, here's the line. Okay, all right. I'll just draw another line over
Same.
here as soon as you cross that one.
Same.
Like, oh wow, this is, and I'm still not great at it. I'm still a learning process person here trying to figure out how to do that stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, but you wouldn't have known that,
I teach.
yeah, and totally, and you wouldn't know that if you weren't brought up like that. You're like, okay, like I know that like I didn't like that, so I need to be better with my own children. But you still were able to teach her that she could say that to you. And I think that's something to be very, very proud of as a parent, even though it hurts and you're like, but you're like, but it was respectful. You know what I mean? It's not like you're trying to blow each other's heads off and like name call and shame your child. Like,
No.
I mean, that's amazing that she could come to talk to you respectfully about that and, have that relationship still blossom, even if it's on pause. It's
Yeah.
beautiful. It's beautiful. It's beautiful. So talk to me, is this like, so with your family crisis coach, tell me about like what the power line is. Is that like
Meaning,
with the kids, is
like,
that what you like that was in your bio about like how you like
well,
mentor
so
coaching or
yeah,
is
I do the way that I coach
right.
is I do an hour with the kid, an hour with the parents.
Okay.
And then at some point the goal is to get them onto the same call together where they're communicating together. But it depends on how much is going on in the house at that time. What I have figured out is that I can teach, about communication and consistency and choice and connection. Those are my 4 C's. That's what I teach on. And I can teach on that when there isn't crisis.
Right.
But where I do really good work is when it's in crisis. Like if I've got a kid that just ran away from home, I'm going to fly there. I'm going to be with the family. We're going to get the kid. We're going to bring the kid home. And then we're going to sit with them for this amount of time. It's almost like intervention, you know what I mean? But for me, coming from like a ER,
Mm-hmm.
parents don't have resource, right? So when their kid is in danger or their kid is suicidal or any of those things, they go to the ER because what other choice do you have? You go to
Right.
either a psych facility, a quick intake or whatever, or you go to the ER. And I'm not going to say that that's bad because it's not. You have to do whatever you need to do to keep your
Right.
child safe.
Right.
For me, when you come to me and you have a kid in crisis, I want to bring them home. I want them in the home. I don't want them in an ER. I don't want them at a psych facility. I don't want any of that stuff. I want them in the home with their family, where they're loved, where they're cherished. And then I want to teach the tools to keep them there.
Right.
So it's not an easy program when it's crisis.
Right.
I do the regular coaching stuff, where it's just like weekly calls and we're just kind of going through the motions. But when it's crisis like that, it's 2 weeks of intensive and then basically 60 days follow-up intensive. And it takes a lot of work for the parents. It's really hard for them. Ask my my last ones that I did this with, she was like, "You want me to do what?" I'm like, "Yeah, she cannot leave the house, which means she has to sleep in your bed if you're worried about her leaving the house. You need to have alarms on every door. You know what I mean? Because it was like, okay, well, we're in crisis. Like, you can't, if you slip, she's going out the door because she's already done it, right? She's already this to us. And then it's a completely scheduled out day. Like,
Right.
we're doing this at this time every single day. And my expectations are that we have daddy daughter dates, that we have family game nights, that we have all these things that really integrate the family back together, because otherwise, what's gonna happen is they're gonna go to inpatient, maybe they're gonna go to crisis stabilization and whatever, but to me, this kiddo had already been to inpatient twice. It didn't work.
Right.
So we gotta do something different. That didn't work. And the thing was is that the more that she went to inpatient, the more used to it she got to being to inpatient, because she knew she could make friends there. She knew
Right.
that she could make friends there that were doing the same stuff she was doing,
Right.
and that then when she got out, they could collaborate and do bad things together when they got out of there.
Right.
So there's some degrees of that I don't agree with. It doesn't mean they don't work. I don't want all the email hate, but I personally think that before we had all these behavioral units and all these different things, what did we do? What did we do? How did we deal with our children? Now we send them away. And here was the problem with her. One of the biggest challenges with her mom, was that she felt like her mom quit on her because she kept sending her away. And
Oh,
so she felt, my mom quit on me and
sure.
I'm not good enough to be there, and all that head talk, right? But bringing her back in and watching her mom go through the steps needed to keep her in the house, their relationship is awesome right now. They are doing mommy daddy dates, all kinds of things at this point, right? But at that time, it was very traumatic for her because she's like, I've been to multiple short-term stays and 2 long-term stays. And what does that say? My parents don't want to deal with me. They think that I'm screwed up. They think that I'm a mess.
Yeah.
And a lot of it came from unhealed wounds from mom and from dad that just needed to be looked at and addressed and then moved forward.
Right. Right. I mean, exactly. Exactly. Like, I hope and pray every day that my mom like finds peace with her past. And maybe she has, like, we don't have a relationship really, so I don't really know, but when we text, it's always the same. It's never changed. It's always just, you know, and I hope that someday that she can speak freely about like her past and all the things that happened to her and things that I know that she doesn't even know I know. You know what I mean? Because that brings peace. It brings peace to the parent, and then it brings peace to the children, and it just brings the family together, creating a power line. Like, I love that. I love that you are able to have the knowledge, the background, because you have a background in psychology too, don't you?
Yeah,
Oh,
so I'm in my doctorate program now for that.
yeah. Okay. That is
Yeah.
amazing. So you're just adding more tools to your tool belt to help as big as you can. And you're such a warrior. Like, I mean, I don't know if you think this about yourself, but you are such a warrior, because it just starts with kids. Like, this is who we have to save now. And by saving them, we can save the parents, and then these kids can be raised learning how to save their own children, and teach them that they are so loved, with no matter who they are. And it's just a beautiful circle of life that you are giving to these families. It's just it's amazing. And how long have you been doing that?
So I worked with the kids up until, it's been about 2.5 years now, when I integrated family into it. Before that, it was really just all teenage stuff. And then I started my doctoral program because I figured out that it's so hard, you know, like for me, I was a single mom for a lot of my kids' life. And I needed this help, right? Like when my boys were little, I needed this help.
Right.
I couldn't have afforded it. There's no way I could have afforded it. So the
Right.
reason for the doctoral is so that it can go through insurance and I can do what I'm already doing, but now it can be charged to insurance for my
Right.
families that can't afford to pay me cash. I get it. Like I take scholarship family all the time because of that exact reason. For me, it's not about the money, it's about how can I help you, and it has to be a right fit. I'm not for everybody. I'm
Right.
not. I have really, you know, I'm pretty crazy about what my expectations are if I'm going to take you on. So that doesn't, I'm not for everybody, and that's okay.
Yeah, it
But
is okay.
uh, yeah, so the family part of it has only been about the last 2.5 years. A lot of that came from watching what was going on in the ER and what was going on in inpatient facilities and trying to really decipher how to do that better.
Right.
Bless you.
Yeah. I mean, you think I'm like, I don't know what sneezing in the microphone's like that's a good idea. But yeah, I mean, you see everything in the ER. I mean,
Yeah.
everything. And so, I mean, that was just a gift for you to see that, even though it's hard and everything like that. And for you to go back to school just so that families can afford it and put it on their insurance. I mean, that's a lot that you have to take on, but it's beneficial to everybody else. And I think it's just amazing to understand that like you can take that to the next level to help more people. You know, it's like that's where we always want to get to, like, what else, what else, what else? I mean, being behind the chair for 20 years, I was like, what else can I do? What else can I do? Like, you know, and it's like, if not me, who, you know, or, you know, we always think like, why me? Like, there's all kinds of other people, but we're all unique to our own stories and our passion. Like, our drive is different from everybody else's, and other people's drives. Like, you know, you can combine everybody. Like, I know you now, I know these other people, and it's like, you know, we can all get together at some point and even bond together and help even a bigger group of kids or a community. You know what I mean? And it's just, you know, like, I'm launching a coaching group this month to help people learn to love themselves. And it's scary, like it's so scary, but like you said, like that passion. And it's just, if I can help one person like change their life, like that's amazing. If one person joins up, like that's amazing, you know?
Yeah.
So, and it's just starting it. And it's like but that's who we need to become. Like, who do we have to become to create these safe spaces for people? And I love that you are going into this building your own retreat. So talk about like how this idea came to life of building this campground / retreat place that you're doing right now in Montana.
So I was looking for land for a long time. I made offers for about a year and a half. We finally got this piece of property. It's not my first pick, but it had all the things that I wanted. So, and actually it's probably the better pick because I'm only like 20 miles from a major airport, which is good. But realistically, what I had intended to do was build 6 cabins and then a venue that would be for weddings, location weddings, right? And the weddings would pay for the retreats for the families. That's really what I wanted it for.
Hmm.
So I'm not a wedding person. Weddings are not my jam, but I know it's big business here. I
Yeah.
mean, they're cool and all that, I love them, whatever, but like, it's not my passion, you know. But I know it's big business. So I figured, well, if I build this venue and I'm able to have weddings there, then the income from that can support my families to come and spend a week together, reconnecting and um, trying to get them back together, building that bridge for them. So I did it for that reason. And the property has been a pain because, you know, there's always something. I mean, as like we've built houses for the last few years, and there's always something. Well, on this property, I wasn't able to build the cabins or the venue yet because there was a blanket easement on the entire property that was not disclosed in title. So we just randomly hit a internet line in the middle of the 20-acre property. Go figure.
Oh
And
my
when we
God.
did that, yeah, we went to the guy that it was going to, and he said, "Well, the power goes right there too." And I'm like, "What?" So I called the power company. They're like, "Yeah, we have a blanket easement over that entire property." So we have been in a title insurance claim now for the last year and a half,
Wow.
trying to get this handled. Yes.
Wow.
So the reason for the glamping tents was because it's all I could afford really to do. You know what I mean? To kind of try to make some kind of profit on the property while it's sitting, because I'm paying for it and I've put all the infrastructure on it and all that stuff. But it's a liability at this point. Like I can't do anything with it. So
Right.
I figured, well, I'll put these glamping tents on it and it will generate some income while I'm waiting for the title insurance stuff to handle. And then we can proceed and do the venue and all of that stuff. But God has a plan. I know he does. I know there's a reason why it's happened this way. And I don't know what that reason is. And I'm okay with that. I'm just going to go
Right.
with it.
I totally get that. I totally get that. It's like, okay, that's why it's so important to have God on your side and energy all around you. I mean, I can't, say that enough. And I'm so glad I God is in my life more strongly now than it was before. Even with my past, I always stayed spiritual, but I couldn't say God's name because my mom did, I felt like my mom kind of destroyed that,
Yeah.
not her fault, whatever, that's just how she was. But it just helps you just be like, okay, there's a reason for that. And I might not know it now, but someday I will know
Yeah.
that reason and I will be so thankful for that reason. And it's like, I pray for that every single day.
Yeah.
Like, what's the purpose? What's the reason? I know I have to be patient for your answer, but I'm here trying to listen to you every single day. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But I think
Yes.
with, the glamping tents and everything like that, you're still getting people involved that are getting to know who you are and what you're doing, because it's just another, aspect of like, hey, I'm doing this camp, but also like, I do this too. This is going to be upcoming, like, to get people excited instead of not doing
Yeah.
anything. You're taking that you can't do what you want to do into something else. That is a
Yeah.
true
I'm
warrior.
I'm I'm pretty good at pivoting. I think if I had one strength, it's that. I am very perseverant. I don't quit on
Right.
anything and I will find a way one way or the other. I'm a good
Right.
pivoter. So this just
Right.
I just listen. It's like, okay, well, I guess I'm gonna do this now
Yeah.
then and we'll wait and see. Maybe I'm not supposed to build the venue right now because of whatever. I don't know, but I'm not gonna question it. It is what it is. There's a reason for it. So we'll do glamping tents for now and see what shows up.
Yeah. And I just think that's a superpower. Like knowing how to pivot is such a superpower, because there's so many people that want to have this goal. And when that doesn't happen the right way or how they think it's supposed to happen, well, I'm done. I'm giving up. I'm giving up. You know what I mean?
Right.
But
Yep.
that just, if you're just going to give up, you're not that passionate, man. Like, if you are that passionate and you become obsessed with something that you want to achieve, especially when it comes to helping other people's lives, you know what I mean? Like, there is no stopping you. And when you have that momentum, it actually turns into something like so big and such a spectacle of light that you are going
Yeah.
to see down the road. I mean, just that's your superpower, man. It's your mama bear, your glamping bear, your venue bear someday. You know what I mean? Like, and that is your superpower. And it's just, it's radiant. Like, it's radiant through the way you talk about things and share things, and, how you put this in your family and everything like that. And it's unbelievable, So, my next question would be like, this is something I'm experiencing right now. So it's a wonderful question to ask. As you've been on this road of, taking your life, obviously to help yourself, to help others, and go on this journey, how has your support system been? Like, did you feel like you were going to be supported by all your friends currently that you always had? Not, I mean, not currently. Did people support you along the way? Did you get, shit on? Did you get, compliments on? Like, I'm sure you experienced all those things since you've been in the game for quite some time. So what has your experience been like with, thinking of, people that are going to support you and then they don't, and then learning how to let go of that?
So that process took place for me, probably 5 years ago when I very first started down this path. And what I realized was that I lost pretty much all of my friends that I had known to that point, right? I have a text message from one of my best friends, still in my phone, and she was like, "The fucking new you sucks," and I was like, "Okay," and but through that process, I met so many new people, and I connected with so many amazing people that I'm still friends with now, that I could call any one of them and the support is undying and they'll do anything in the world for me. So it was a transition and shift that needed to happen. It wasn't, I don't feel it. Of course, it hurts your feelings in the beginning, because you've lived this life with these people that you felt like were your support and your friends and you're this and you're that, and then all of a sudden, no, you're not. So it was hurtful in the beginning. But for me, I was on a path, and if you weren't on the path with me, then you weren't, and that just meant you were not supposed to be on this part of the season of my life, and that's okay. I wish all of them well, and I, pray for all of them all the time. But the reality is that I'm going in one direction, and I'm not looking backwards. I'm not going that way. So, unfortunately, sorry. I mean, not everybody's meant to be with you your whole life. Not everybody's meant to be on all parts of your journey, you know?
Yeah. Yeah.
You're supposed to pick up passengers and release passengers along the way. That's what I believe, so.
Yeah. Yeah. And, like I've definitely learned that this past year, like it has been something I have really, really struggled with. And it wasn't until these last 2 weeks where, like, literally, where I was like, I'm not letting anyone take my power. I'm not letting anybody take me from being on this path of helping as many people as I can.
Yeah.
There's, like I had to learn how to just let go. And like you said, just pray for them, wish them well. Like it's, people are going to be in your life. Like you're on a rocket, man. And there's people that are going to be boosters and boosters, and they're going to fall off. I know that saying has been around like for so long, but it's so true. You have people in your life for a season, a reason, or a lifetime. And those lifetimes, like, oh man, of course, like they're wonderful. They're absolutely wonderful. But at the same time, you have to learn, if you are going to be successful in what you want to accomplish out of the good, that you have to learn how to let go of the people that you thought were going to support you. Like you just have to, because it's going to destroy you mentally. It'll destroy you physically, because if you're destroyed mentally, you don't want to do anything physically. And guess what? That's going to, make you go backwards. It's like the big leap that Gay Hendricks talks about, right? When you are getting to a certain level and certain level, because like you can have this momentum, but once one thing that you think is going to support you or be there when you get there is not, and you let that happen, that's why people fall. Like, for example, of like, someone gets really far up and as an athlete, right? And then something gets triggered and they just completely fall, instead of learning how to be like, okay, you know what, I got to let that go and move on and learn something else and take that
Mhm.
lesson into the future. It's really hard. It's
I
really,
think I spent a lot of time when in the beginning of all this transition for me, and I still do it, but I went back to the 4 agreements over and over and over
oh,
again, um, because I really had to learn those things, right? And I still do. It's like a practice, right? You're constantly practicing that. But the learned of, you know, I don't have any expectations of anybody. I just don't. I don't expect you to be this or that. I don't expect you to be supportive or not supportive. I don't have any expectations on you at all. Like, I love you for who you are and how you show up. And the reason why you show up in my life is for something. Maybe it's a mirror to me and something in me that I need to address.
yeah.
Maybe it's that you know what I mean? So, like, I appreciate it all. because all of it is for a purpose, and it's all for my better if I'm choosing to look at it that way. That's what I choose to look at it as. And
Right.
I've had most amazing experiences that way.
Right. Yeah. I mean, I absolutely 100% agree with you. I mean, the Four Agreements, that is a life-changing book. If you guys have not read that book, please get it. You know, it's something, it's an easy read. You can get through it and pretty quickly, but it's a book that you want to continue to read. Like I like to read that like, you know, once a year or, you know, once every 6 months or something like that. Like it's the repetitiveness. Like, even though you're like, well, I read that already, you know what I mean? I've seen that already. It's repetition. That's how we get our brains to function and change our programming to be on this different path of knowing how to think, knowing how to let go, knowing where to love and give light. Like it's just, it's an amazing book. It's amazing. And I, you know, like everybody should read that book because you're like, oh, okay. You know what I mean? It is okay. It
I'm
is.
like a studier of that one.
Yeah. Right. Like, I
I'm
mean,
I don't ever read it all the way through. I know when something's not right with me, like I'll just pick it up and I'm just scrolling through. Okay, this is the part I needed to read. This is what's
yeah,
going on with me. This is why it's showing up this way. And
yeah,
it's just a reference for me. It's a study material for me,
yeah.
um, that I've used over and over again for sure.
I love that. I love that. So now that we're getting into this call, you know, what would you like to leave this call with? And, you know, what do you want us to know about like your future and, you know, everything like that? Like, or how can we help or with, you know, the path that you're on and what does that future look like to you?
You know, I have big goals all the time, but we'll see what happens. It's all from a place of service at this point. So whatever that path is supposed to look like, it will look like. My hope is to be able to have all this resolved so I can have my retreats for families and to get through school in the next 2 years so I can further help people. And you know, that's pretty much it. As far as helping me, it's helping you. You know what I mean? Like to help you. Be willing to look inward, be willing to look at yourself and be honest about that, because you know, forgiving ourselves first is the biggest thing. And I think that makes a difference in how you show up in relationship, whether that's with your children or your significant other or your friends or whoever. You can't be going around lugging around a backpack full of crap, whether that's your own crap or crap you put in there from other people. You have to let that stuff go. So that's what I encourage. That's what you can do for me, help you, because
Yeah,
I'm good. I'm in a good spot.
that's beautiful. I love that. And like, you know, just right there, like you guys, the number one thing to learn how to love yourself and be able to achieve your goals is forgiving yourself. Forgiveness is
Mhm.
such a huge thing. Forgiving other people, even if you have to do it away from far away, even if those people never know that you've forgiven them, it's for you. And always know that that's for you, and just never stop. Never stop. Don't let anything get in your way. Don't let anybody take your power, especially when it's in the active service of love and light. Like it's we're meant to help each other on this earth. We're not meant to hate each other and cause wars and all this crap that's going on in the world right now. This is not the way that we're supposed to. That's not the way that God made us. So let's continue to be God's children and serve and love each other and let that light in. So Monique, thank you so much for, you know, talking to me today about the important things that are going on in this world, what you're doing, how we can, you know, prep our children in safety and all these things. And again, you guys, if you guys are looking to get help with your children and as a family, Monique's link of her coaching group will be below and you can reach out to her. She's also on Instagram. I will have that link below too. Like don't feel like you can't reach out to us. You know, if you have to reach out to me to get to her, that's absolutely fine as well. But we are here to answer your questions. We are here to help you and we are here to guide you into the right direction if we don't have the right answer. So, thank you so much. You are an
Thank
angel.
you. I appreciate you.
You are an angel. And I can't, you know, wait to meet you in person someday. If you're going to Lions Den Live this year, that would be really awesome. And you know, like maybe I'll go to Montana and try out this glamping thing of yours.
You should do it.
I know. Yeah, that'd be so awesome. So thanks again. You guys have an amazing Monday. Get your week together for success, and we'll see you next week. Take care. Bye.
Bye.